I sat in the sterile conference room at Apex Innovations, a biotech firm in San Diego, waiting for what I thought was my performance review. It was my 53rd birthday, March 15th, and I'd been with the company for 9 years. Across from me sat Kyle Brennan, the 31-year-old VP of Research who joined 2 years ago, and Pamela Voss from HR. Kyle slid a manila folder across the table. "Claudia, we're restructuring the computational biology division. Your position is being eliminated, effective immediately." The words didn't compute at first. I just completed development of a revolutionary protein folding algorithm that could accelerate drug discovery by years. Phase 1 testing showed 94% accuracy, unprecedented in the field. "I don't understand," I said slowly. "The algorithm just passed validation. We're about to move to phase 2 with the Alzheimer's research." "The algorithm is staying?" Kyle said with barely concealed satisfaction. "You're not. We're bringing in a younger team with fresh perspectives." Pamela pushed forward a severance agreement. 6 months salary, continued benefits for 90 days. "We need you to sign today." My hands shook as I read the document, buried in the legal language. Employee acknowledges all work product, including but not limited to computational models, algorithms, and methodologies developed during employment, remains the sole property of Apex Innovations. My mind raced. The algorithm. My algorithm. The one I developed over 3 years, often working 70-hour weeks. The one that could be worth hundreds of millions in pharmaceutical applications. "I need time to review this," I managed to say. "You have until 5 p.m. today," Kyle said, checking his watch. "Security will escort you out at 5:01 p.m. whether you sign or not. We've already disabled your building access." As I walked back to my office in a daze, I passed a conference room. Through the glass wall, I saw Kyle presenting my algorithm, my slides, my data, my breakthrough to the executive team. The presentation title, Next Generation Protein Folding, A Computational Revolution by Kyle Brennan. He was already taking credit. On my 53rd birthday, I sat at my desk staring at 9 years of work condensed into a cardboard box that security had provided. Family photos. A coffee mug from a conference in Stockholm. The award I'd received 3 years ago for outstanding computational innovation, back when they pretended to value me. My office door opened. It was Tomas Ruiz, my closest colleague and friend of 7 years. He wouldn't meet my eyes. "Tommy, did you know?" I asked quietly. His silence was answer enough. "Kyle asked me to take over the algorithm development," he finally said. "Said it was a promotion. I didn't know they were firing you until this morning, I swear." "And you took it?" My voice cracked. "Claudia, I have 2 kids in college. I can't afford to be noble." He shifted uncomfortably. "I'm sorry. I really am. But maybe this is for the best. You've been talking about retirement, and I'm 53, not 83, I snapped. "I have a decade left in my career, maybe more. And I never said retirement. I said I wanted work-life balance. There's a difference?" Tomas left without another word. I turned to my computer for one last check of my files. My personal email archive, my development notes, my access to the company's shared research drive was already gone. But my personal laptop. I glanced at the bag under my desk. Last night, working late at home, I'd been running simulations on my personal computer. The latest version of the algorithm, the one with the breakthrough adjustment that pushed accuracy to 94%, was saved locally. Apex's IT policy required all work to be backed up on company servers, but I hadn't uploaded last night's refinement yet. Technically, the most advanced version of my algorithm existed only on my personal device. I made a decision. I slipped my laptop into my bag, then I signed the severance agreement with a steady hand. Let them think they'd won. That night, I sat in my home office, unable to sleep. My husband Paulo brought me tea and sat beside me. After 28 years of marriage, he knew when to talk and when to just be present. "They took everything," I finally said. 9 years. And on my birthday, they just erased me. "Not everything," Paulo said gently, nodding at my laptop. "You still have this." I opened my personal computer and pulled up my development files. The algorithm was there. All 47,000 lines of code, 3 years of refinement, and the critical breakthrough from last night. But more importantly, I found something else. My development journal. For 9 years, I'd kept meticulous notes. Not just code, but methodology, thought processes, problems solved, and breakthroughs achieved. timestamps on everything. I scrolled through years of entries and a pattern emerged. The foundational work, the core architecture that made the algorithm revolutionary, was developed during a 6-month sabbatical I'd taken in 2019. Apex had granted me unpaid leave to care for my dying mother. During that time, unable to sleep, grieving and restless, I'd worked late into the night on a personal project. I'd used my own laptop, my own software licenses, my own cloud computing credits. The timestamps were clear. May through October 20, 2019, every major breakthrough logged between 11 p.m. and 4 a.m., all on personal equipment. When I'd returned to Apex, I'd brought the foundational algorithm with me and built upon it using company resources. But the core, the revolutionary architecture that made everything work, was created outside of my employment. I checked my employment contract, hands trembling. Section 7.3. Intellectual property developed during employment using company resources belongs to Apex Innovations. Employee retains rights to inventions created independently, outside working hours, using personal resources. Paulo read over my shoulder. Claudia, do they know? Kyle hasn't even looked at the code structure, I said slowly. He's just presenting the results. He has no idea what he's stolen or what he doesn't actually own. I opened a new browser window and searched for Patent Attorneys San Diego. 3 days later, I sat across from Veronica Tsai, a sharply dressed intellectual property attorney in a downtown high-rise. Between us sat my 9 years of documentation. Development journals, timestamps, credit card statements for cloud computing purchases, email archives showing my work during the 2019 sabbatical. Veronica reviewed everything with meticulous attention. An hour passed in near silence except for occasional questions. This timestamp, you were definitely on unpaid leave? These computing resources, you paid for them personally? This email to yourself with the core algorithm, sent from your personal account? Finally, Veronica sat back. Dr. Brenner, this is one of the clearest cases of employee-owned IP I've seen in a decade. Really? My heart raced. Your sabbatical was unpaid leave. You weren't an Apex employee during that period. You were on a leave of absence. Everything you developed during those 6 months falls outside your employment agreement. Veronica pulled up the employment contract on her screen. Look at the language. Developed during employment. You weren't employed during the sabbatical. You were on unpaid leave, a crucial distinction. But I came back and implemented it at Apex. Argued, playing devil's advocate. You integrated your existing technology into company projects, Veronica corrected. That's different from creating it there. Think of it like this. If an architect designs a revolutionary building technique at home, then uses it on a client's project at work, the client owns the building, but the architect owns the technique. I felt lightheaded. So the core algorithm is mine? Based on this documentation, yes. You need to file for patent protection immediately before Apex does. How long do I have? Patents are first to file. If Apex hasn't filed yet, we need to move now, today. I thought of Kyle, presenting my work as his own, basking in the glory. File it now. Veronica opened her laptop. This is going to get ugly, Claudia. Apex will fight this hard. Are you ready for that? I remembered the smirk on Kyle's face as he'd eliminated my position. The presentation with his name on my work. The birthday humiliation. I've never been more ready for anything in my life. Veronica worked around the clock to prepare my provisional patent application. We needed detailed technical documentation, proof of conception dates, evidence of independent development. I provided everything. Handwritten notes from my mother's bedside, time-stamped code commits to my personal GitHub, even the journal entry from the night I'd had the breakthrough, June 14, 2019, 2:47 a.m. Unable to sleep after a particularly hard day at hospice. This is extraordinary documentation, Veronica said, scanning through the materials. Most people don't keep records this detailed. My mother was a patent examiner, I explained quietly, before she got sick. She always told me, document everything, Claudia. In science, proof isn't just about what you discovered. It's about proving you discovered it first. The provisional patent application was filed on Friday, March 22, exactly 1 week after my firing. The technology was now legally claimed under my name, Adaptive Protein Folding Prediction System, Dr. Claudia Brenner, sole inventor. That weekend, I could barely eat or sleep. I kept refreshing the patent office portal, watching the status. Application received, under review. On Monday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Dr. Brenner? This is Pamela Voss from Apex Innovations HR. We need you to come in for an urgent meeting regarding intellectual property documentation. My stomach dropped. They knew. What kind of documentation? I asked. I'm not at liberty to discuss over the phone. Can you come in today? No, I said, surprising myself with my firmness. I'm no longer an Apex employee. Any communication needs to go through my attorney. Your attorney? Pamela's voice shifted. Dr. Brenner, let's not make this adversarial. We just need to clarify some dates in your development timeline. Have your legal team contact Veronica Sy at Sy & Partners, I interrupted. She represents me now. I hung up. My hands were shaking, but I was smiling. They were scrambling. They just realized they might not own what they thought they owned. And they were terrified. The letter arrived via courier on Tuesday morning. Cease and desist. Patent infringement claim. Apex Innovations' legal team, led by Senior Counsel Harrison Webb, demanded that I immediately withdraw my patent application and acknowledge all rights to the algorithm belonged to Apex. The letter claimed, I developed the algorithm during my employment. I'd used company resources and knowledge. I'd signed away all rights in my employment agreement. My patent filing was fraudulent and constituted theft of trade secrets. They threatened immediate legal action if I didn't comply within 48 hours. I forwarded it to Veronica, who called back within an hour, laughing. They're panicking. This letter is aggressive because they're weak. It looks pretty threatening to me, I said, reading the part about criminal prosecution for theft of proprietary technology. It's theater, Veronica assured me. Look at what they're not saying. They don't claim to have filed their own patent. They don't provide any evidence of company development. They're just hoping you'll be intimidated into backing down. What do we do? I asked. We respond with facts, Veronica said, her tone turning steely. And we go on offense. That afternoon, Veronica sent a response letter that made my pulse race. Dear Mr. Webb, Dr. Brenner rejects your baseless claims. The core algorithm architecture was developed during her unpaid sabbatical leave in 2019, using personal resources as documented in the attached 47-page development timeline. Per Section 7.3 of her employment contract, this IP remains her property. Furthermore, Apex's use of Dr. Brenner's algorithm without compensation or attribution may constitute misappropriation of her intellectual property. We demand Apex immediately cease all use of the algorithm pending resolution of ownership rights. I read it twice. You're accusing them of stealing from me? Because they did, Veronica said simply. They fired you and kept using your technology. That's exactly what happened. Won't this make them angrier? I asked nervously. Claudia, they're already planning to bury you in legal fees and intimidation. The only way to win is to make them more afraid of you than you are of them. Veronica paused. Trust me, in 48 hours, they'll want to negotiate. Wednesday evening, I received a cryptic email to my personal account from an address I didn't recognize. Dr. Brenner, you don't know me, but I know what Kyle did to you. We need to talk. Meet me Thursday 11 a.m., Blackbird Cafe in La Jolla. Come alone. I have information you need. A friend at Apex. I showed Paulo, who immediately said, don't go. It could be a trap. But curiosity won. Thursday morning, I arrived at the small cafe and spotted a young woman in her late 20s, nervous, glancing around. She stood when I approached. Dr. Brenner? I'm Zara Okonkwo. I was Kyle's executive assistant. We sat in a corner booth. Zara pulled out a folder. I'm quitting next week. I've already got another job lined up. But before I go, you need to see this. Inside the folder were printed emails between Kyle and the executive team dating back 6 months. My hands shook as I read. November 2023, Kyle to CEO. Claudia's algorithm is nearly complete. Recommend we transition her out before year-end to avoid performance bonus payout. I can manage the technology going forward. December 2023, CFO to Kyle. Agreed. What's the legal exposure? December 2023, Kyle to CFO. Legal confirmed all IP developed during employment belongs to us. Clean termination, zero risk. January 2024, Kyle to HR. Target termination date, March 15th. After Q1 results are finalized. They'd planned it. For months, they'd watched me complete the algorithm, waiting for the perfect moment to steal it and dispose of me. "Why are you showing me this?" I asked, my voice thick with emotion. "Because Kyle's a narcissistic predator," Zara said bluntly. "I've watched him take credit for other people's work for 2 years. But what he did to you, planning your firing while you were finishing your life's work? That's evil. He could sue you for this." "I made copies before I gave notice," Zara shrugged. "And I'm not the only one who's disgusted by what happened. Tomas feels terrible, by the way. He wanted to quit in solidarity but couldn't afford to." I photographed every page. "Thank you, Zara. This is evidence," Zara finished. "Evidence that they knowingly stole from you. Your lawyer's going to love this." Veronica's reaction to Zara's emails was exactly what I'd hoped for. Righteous fury. "This is premeditation," Veronica said, pacing her office. "They didn't just fire you, they strategically eliminated you after you completed valuable work that specifically to avoid paying you what you were worth." "Can we use this in court?" I asked eagerly. "Court?" Veronica grinned. "Claudia, this changes everything. We're not playing defense anymore. We're going on the attack." She pulled up a document on her computer. "I'm filing a lawsuit against Apex for 1. Wrongful termination in violation of public policy. 2. Unjust enrichment from your IP. 3. Fraud for claiming ownership of technology they knew you developed independently." "Wait, we're suing them?" The reality was hitting me. "They fired you in bad faith, stole your work, and tried to intimidate you into surrendering your rights. Yes, we're absolutely suing them." Veronica's smile was fierce. "And with these emails, we can prove intent." "How much are we talking about?" I asked, barely breathing. "The algorithm's commercial value could be assessed at anywhere from 50 million to 200 million in pharmaceutical applications," Veronica said. "We're going to demand 1. Full ownership recognition of your IP. 2. Retroactive compensation for Apex's unauthorized use. 3. Punitive damages for bad faith termination." I felt dizzy. That could bankrupt them. "That's not your problem. They created this situation." Veronica started drafting the complaint. "I'm filing this on Friday. By Monday, every pharmaceutical executive in San Diego will know that Apex's miracle algorithm is tied up in litigation. Their stock is going to crater." "Good," I said quietly, thinking of Kyle's smirk. "Let them feel what I felt." As I left Veronica's office, my phone buzzed. An email from an unexpected source, Dr. Yuki Nakamura, Chief Scientific Officer at Helix Pharmaceuticals, one of the largest biotech companies in California. Subject line: Confidential discussion, your algorithm. Dr. Nakamura's email was brief but intriguing. "Dr. Brenner, I've been following your work in computational biology for years. Recent developments regarding your algorithm have come to my attention. I'd like to discuss a potential collaboration. Would you be available for a confidential call?" I showed the email to Veronica, who immediately saw the implications. Word is already spreading in the industry. People know there's a dispute over the algorithm ownership. "Is that good or bad?" I asked. "For you? Potentially very good. For Apex? Devastating." We scheduled a call with Dr. Nakamura for that afternoon. He was direct. "Dr. Brenner, I'm aware of the situation with Apex. I'm not interested in their internal politics. I'm interested in your algorithm. If you secure ownership rights, would you be interested in licensing it to Helix?" My pulse quickened. "What kind of licensing?" "We're developing treatments for neurodegenerative diseases. Your protein folding prediction system could accelerate our research by years. We'd be interested in an exclusive license for pharmaceutical applications." He paused. "We're talking about a deal potentially worth 8 figures annually." I had to sit down. That's more than Apex's entire research budget." "Your algorithm is that valuable," Dr. Nakamura confirmed. "Apex was going to use it internally. We're talking about commercial-scale implementation across multiple drug development programs, but obviously, we need clear ownership established first." After the call, I sat in stunned silence. My algorithm, the work Apex had dismissed me for, could be worth tens of millions annually to multiple companies. "Do you understand what this means?" Veronica asked. "Apex didn't just fire you and steal your work. They stole something worth potentially hundreds of millions, and they're about to find out." That evening, I received another call. This time from a journalist at Biopharma Weekly, a major industry publication. "Dr. Brenner, I'm investigating reports of an IP dispute involving a revolutionary protein folding algorithm. Would you be willing to comment? No comment at this time, I said, as Veronica had advised, but I can confirm that legal proceedings are underway. The journalist was undeterred. Sources say Apex Innovations fired you and claimed ownership of technology you developed. Can you confirm? All I can say is that the truth will come out in court. I paused, and it's going to be very interesting. The article ran online that night. Patent dispute clouds Apex Innovations breakthrough algorithm. Friday morning, Veronica filed the lawsuit, Dr. Claudia Brenner versus Apex Innovations Inc. The complaint was 47 pages of meticulously documented allegations, including the smoking gun emails Zara had provided. By 10 a.m., it was public record. By 11 a.m., Biopharma Weekly had updated their article with details from the lawsuit. By noon, Apex's stock had dropped 12%. I watched the market numbers on my laptop, Paulo beside me. Every refresh showed the price falling. They're bleeding, Paulo observed. Good, I said, surprised by the coldness in my own voice. My phone rang. Unknown number. I answered on speaker. Dr. Brenner, this is Harrison Webb from Apex's legal team. We need to discuss a path to resolution. I'm listening, I said, Veronica having coached me on this moment. Your lawsuit has created complications. We'd like to propose a settlement negotiation. Would you be amenable to a conversation? That depends on the conversation, I replied. We're prepared to offer 1. Acknowledgement of your contributions to the algorithm. 2. A substantial cash settlement. 3. A mutual non-disparagement agreement. I glanced at Veronica's notes, who shook her head firmly. Mr. Webb, your offer doesn't address ownership. Unless Apex is prepared to acknowledge the algorithm as my intellectual property, there's nothing to discuss. That's not something we can agree to at this stage. Then we'll see you in court, I said, and hung up. Veronica was grinning. Perfect. They're scrambling. They're trying to buy me off without admitting they stole from me, I said. Exactly. Which means they know their position is weak. Veronica's phone buzzed. She read the message and her smile widened. 3 more pharmaceutical companies just reached out to my office asking about potential licensing if you win. Claudia, you've got half the industry watching this case. That afternoon, Apex's stock closed down 18%. The company released a statement. Apex Innovations disputes the baseless claims in Dr. Brenner's lawsuit and will vigorously defend its intellectual property rights. But Wall Street didn't believe them. The market had spoken. Uncertainty around the algorithm's ownership made Apex a risky investment. Monday morning, I received an unexpected visitor at my home. Tomas Ruiz, looking exhausted and guilty. Can we talk? He asked. Claudia, I'm so sorry. I should have quit when they fired you. I should have spoken up. I was a coward. I let him in, not sure what to feel. Paulo offered coffee, then discreetly retreated. I saw the lawsuit, Tomas continued. The emails, the planning, I didn't know it was that calculated, I swear. I thought it was just corporate restructuring. But you took my position, I said quietly. I did. And I regret it. But Claudia, he pulled out a USB drive. Kyle's been having me optimize the algorithm. He wants to file a separate patent application to muddy the waters, claim that his improvements constitute new IP. Can he do that? I asked, alarmed. Not legally, it's still based on your core architecture. But he doesn't care. He's desperate. Tomas slid the USB across the table. This is everything. All his notes, emails, instructions to me, proof that he knows the algorithm is yours and is trying to create confusion. Why are you doing this? I asked. Because I owe you. Because it's right. And because... He hesitated. I'm quitting. I can't work for someone who operates like this. I have kids. I don't want them growing up thinking their father was the kind of person who helped steal someone's life's work. I took the USB drive. Thank you, Tomas. This means everything. After he left, I called Veronica, who nearly shouted with excitement. This is beyond a smoking gun. This is a signed confession. Kyle is knowingly trying to patent stolen technology. That's fraud. What happens now? Now, we add fraud to the lawsuit and request an emergency injunction preventing Apex from filing any patent applications related to the algorithm. We're going to stop them cold. That evening, I received a LinkedIn message from someone named Dr. Ian Carver at Oxford University. Dr. Brenner, I've been following your case with great interest. I run a computational biology lab and would be honored to have you present your work at our symposium this fall. We'd cover all expenses. Would you be interested? I stared at the message. A month ago I'd been fired and erased. Now prestigious universities were inviting me to speak. Paulo, I called. I think I might be about to have a career again. Veronica filed an emergency motion for a preliminary injunction. Prevent Apex from filing any patent applications, using the algorithm commercially, or transferring any related technology until ownership was legally determined. The hearing was scheduled for Friday, just 4 days away. I spent every waking hour preparing. Veronica needed me to be an expert witness, capable of explaining the algorithm's development in clear terms a judge could understand. You need to tell the story, Veronica coached. Not just technically, emotionally. The judge needs to understand what this algorithm represents. Thursday night, I couldn't sleep. I kept rehearsing my testimony, imagining Kyle's attorneys trying to tear me apart on the stand. At 2 a.m., I sat in my home office, looking at my development journals from 2019. The entries from my mother's bedside. Mom's sleeping. I can't stop thinking about the protein folding problem. What if the issue isn't the prediction model, but the input parameters? What if? I remembered those nights. The grief, the exhaustion, the desperate need to create something meaningful while my mother was dying. The algorithm wasn't just a scientific achievement. It was my way of processing loss, of finding purpose in the darkest period of my life. Friday arrived. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, but the stakes were massive. Judge Patricia Brennan, another coincidental Brenner, I took it as a good sign, presided. Apex's legal team filled one side. Harrison Webb and 3 associates, plus Kyle sitting in the front row, confident and smirking. I sat with Veronica, my documentation organized in neat binders. Judge Brennan reviewed the motions, then looked at both parties. This is an emergency hearing for a preliminary injunction. I'll hear from the plaintiff first. Veronica stood. Your Honor, Dr. Brenner developed the core algorithm during a 6-month unpaid sabbatical in 2019. She has meticulous documentation proving every aspect of independent development. Apex terminated her employment, claimed her work as theirs, and is now attempting to patent technology they don't own. We're seeking an injunction to prevent irreparable harm while the case proceeds. Harrison Webb countered. Your Honor, Dr. Brenner was an Apex employee under contract. The algorithm was developed within the scope of her employment. The sabbatical is irrelevant. She was still technically employed, just on leave. Judge Brennan turned to me. Dr. Brenner, I'd like to hear directly from you. In your own words, tell me about the development of this algorithm. I stood, my voice initially shaky but growing stronger. Your Honor, in 2019, my mother was dying of early-onset Alzheimer's. I took unpaid leave to care for her during her final months. I watched the most brilliant woman I knew, a patent examiner who taught me everything about scientific integrity, lose herself piece by piece. The courtroom was silent. Even Kyle had stopped smirking. I couldn't sleep. I'd sit by her bedside at 2 a.m., watching her breathe, and I'd work on this problem that had consumed me for years. How to predict protein folding with accuracy that could actually help people. People like my mother. My voice cracked, but I continued. I used my personal laptop, my own software, my own computing credits. I have every receipt, every timestamp, every journal entry. The breakthrough came on June 14, 2019, at 2:47 a.m. My mother died 3 weeks later. I looked directly at Kyle. When I returned to Apex, I brought this algorithm with me. I developed it further using company resources, yes. But the core, the revolutionary part that makes everything work, was born during the worst months of my life. Using my own equipment, driven by grief and the desperate hope that something good could come from watching my mother forget her own daughter. Judge Brennan's expression had softened. And Apex is claiming ownership of this? They fired me on my 53rd birthday, Your Honor. Then they kept my algorithm and started presenting it as their own work. I wasn't just terminated, I was erased. Veronica handed me a folder. These are emails from Apex executives, obtained through discovery, showing they planned my termination months in advance. They waited for me to complete the algorithm, then disposed of me to avoid paying me fairly for work they knew was worth millions. I slid the folder to the judge. They didn't just steal my intellectual property, they stole my mother's legacy. She taught me to document everything, to protect my work, and that's exactly what I did. Judge Brennan reviewed the email silently. When she looked up, her expression was stern. Mr. Webb, I'm very troubled by what I'm seeing here. Harrison Webb attempted damage control. Your Honor, Dr. Brenner's personal circumstances, while sympathetic, don't change the legal reality. Her employment contract clearly states. I've read the contract, Judge Brennan interrupted. And I've read the exception clause for independent development. The question is whether development during an unpaid leave of absence constitutes independent work. She was technically still employed. On unpaid leave, the judge emphasized. Not receiving salary, not using company resources, explicitly caring for a dying family member. Mr. Webb, this court will not reward a company for exploiting an employee's grief and dedication. She flipped through more documents. Furthermore, these emails suggest premeditated bad faith. Apex deliberately waited for Dr. Brenner to complete valuable work before terminating her employment. That's not corporate restructuring, that's calculated exploitation. Kyle shifted uncomfortably in his seat. I'm granting the preliminary injunction, Judge Brennan declared. Effective immediately, Apex Innovations is prohibited from filing any patent applications related to the protein folding algorithm, commercially licensing or selling the technology, representing the algorithm as company-owned intellectual property. Harrison Webb stood. Your Honor, this will cause immediate and irreparable harm to Apex's business operations. Good, Judge Brennan said coldly. Perhaps they should have considered that before terminating the scientist who created their most valuable asset. This injunction remains in effect until trial, where Dr. Brenner will have the opportunity to prove full ownership. She banged the gavel. This hearing is adjourned. My legs felt like water. Veronica hugged me tightly. You did it. You stopped them cold. Across the courtroom, Kyle was arguing with Harrison Webb, his face red. They'd just been legally barred from using the algorithm that their entire growth strategy depended on. As I left the courthouse, reporters were waiting. Dr. Brenner, how do you feel about the injunction? I paused, choosing my words carefully. I feel vindicated. The court recognized what Apex refused to, that innovation comes from people, not companies. And when you erase the people, you lose the innovation. That evening, Apex's stock dropped another 14%. The company's revolutionary algorithm was now legally off limits, and investors were panicking. Monday morning, I received a formal letter via courier from Helix Pharmaceuticals. Inside, a preliminary licensing proposal so generous it took my breath away. Dr. Brenner, pending favorable resolution of your IP dispute, Helix Pharmaceuticals proposes exclusive pharmaceutical license, $15 million upfront payment, annual licensing fees, $8 million minimum guarantee plus 2% of product revenues utilizing the algorithm, 5-year term with renewal options, position as Chief Computational Advisor, remote, part-time, $250,000 annual salary. Paulo read over my shoulder and let out a low whistle. Claudia, that's generational wealth. It's more than that, I said quietly. It's proof that I was never obsolete. They wanted me to think I was washed up, too old, not valuable. But the industry is literally offering me millions because they know what I created. I called Veronica, who was equally stunned. This is extraordinary, but Claudia, we can't accept anything until you have clear ownership. I know, but can we use this to apply pressure? Veronica was quiet for a moment, thinking. Yes. Actually, yes we can. If Apex knows you have a $15 million deal waiting, they'll understand exactly how much they stand to lose. That afternoon, Veronica sent a courtesy notice to Apex's legal team. Please be advised that Dr. Brenner has received substantial licensing offers from multiple pharmaceutical companies contingent on IP ownership resolution. This information is provided to assist Apex in evaluating settlement options. Within 2 hours, Harrison Webb called. We need to schedule settlement negotiations immediately. I thought you planned to vigorously defend your IP rights, Veronica said sweetly. The business reality has changed. We'd like to discuss terms. Then you're acknowledging Dr. Brenner's ownership? Long pause. We're prepared to discuss a co-ownership arrangement. No, Veronica said flatly. Full ownership or trial, those are your options. Miss Tsai, be reasonable. Mr. Webb, I have a $15 million licensing offer sitting on my desk. Dr. Brenner doesn't need to be reasonable. You do. She hung up. I felt a rush of power unlike anything I'd experienced. For the first time since being fired, I wasn't the victim. I was the one holding all the cards. That evening, Claudia, Paulo, and Veronica strategized at my kitchen table, documents spread everywhere. They're going to come back with a settlement offer, Veronica predicted. We need to decide your terms before they do. What do you think I should ask for? I asked. Veronica tapped her pen thoughtfully. Legally, you could demand full ownership acknowledgement, damages for wrongful termination, compensation for unauthorized use of your IP, and potentially punitive damages for bad faith. But I sensed there was more. But trials are expensive, time-consuming, and unpredictable. Even with a strong case, there's risk. She looked at me seriously. What do you actually want? And I don't mean money. I mean justice. What does victory look like for you? I thought about Kyle's smirk, the birthday firing, the erasure of my 9 years of work. I want them to admit they were wrong. Publicly. I want my name on the algorithm, and I want enough money that I never have to worry about employment discrimination again. Then here's what we demand, Veronica said, making notes. 1. Apex acknowledges in writing, filed with the court, that you are the sole inventor of the algorithm. 2. They assign all rights to you completely. No co-ownership, no licensing back, nothing. 3. They pay $5 million in damages for wrongful termination and IP misappropriation. 4. They issue a public statement acknowledging your contributions. 5. They agree to never contest your patent. Paulo whistled. Will they agree to that? Their stock has dropped 28% since this started, Veronica pointed out. Their revolutionary algorithm is legally frozen. Every day this drags on costs them more. Plus, if we go to trial and Claudia wins, a jury could award far more than $5 million in punitive damages. So we're betting they'll settle? I asked. We're betting they can't afford not to, Veronica corrected. Wednesday morning, Veronica sent the settlement demand to Harrison Webb. His response came in 4 hours. These terms are completely unacceptable. We'll see you at trial. But I noticed something in the email's metadata that Veronica pointed out. It was sent at 9:47 p.m. Harrison was working late, stressed, under pressure. They're stalling, Veronica assessed, trying to look tough while they figure out their options. What do? We wait. And while we wait, we make their situation worse. Veronica had a strategy, make the case too public for Apex to ignore. She scheduled me for an interview with Tech Health Today, a widely read industry podcast. The host, Brianna Garrett, was a prominent voice in biotech circles known for holding companies accountable. Dr. Brenner, thank you for joining us. Your story has been making waves in the industry. Can you walk us through what happened? I, coached by Veronica, told my story calmly and factually, the algorithm development during my mother's death, the return to Apex, the 9 years of dedication, the birthday firing, the discovery of the planned termination. What struck me most, I said, was the calculated nature of it. They didn't fire me because my work was inadequate. They fired me because it was complete. I'd served my purpose, and at 53, they decided I was disposable. How did that make you feel? Brianna asked gently. Like every fear women in STEM have about aging in tech was confirmed. We're told if we work hard, if we're brilliant, if we deliver results, we'll be valued. But the truth is, many companies see us as temporary resources. Use us up, throw us away. The podcast went live Thursday morning. By afternoon, it had 50,000 downloads. Comments poured in from other women in tech sharing similar experiences. The hashtag Dr. Brenner algorithm started trending on Twitter. Journalists reached out asking for interviews. Friday morning, Apex released a defensive statement. Apex Innovations values all employees and disputes the characterization of Dr. Brenner's departure. This is a legal matter that should be resolved in court, not social media. But the damage was done. Glassdoor reviews for Apex plummeted. 3 senior scientists updated their LinkedIn profiles to open to opportunities. A Change.org petition titled Support Dr. Claudia Brenner Against Age and Gender Discrimination gained 15,000 signatures in 24 hours. That evening, Harrison Webb called Veronica directly, not email. We need to talk, off the record. I'm listening, Veronica said. Your client's PR campaign is causing serious damage. If she continues, we'll sue for defamation. Veronica laughed. Mr. Webb, Dr. Brenner hasn't said anything false. Truth is an absolute defense to defamation, as I'm sure you know. She's destroying our reputation. You destroyed your own reputation when you fired a brilliant scientist on her birthday after stealing her work. Dr. Brenner is simply telling the truth. Pause. What would it take to settle this quietly? The settlement negotiation took place in a neutral conference room at a downtown hotel. I sat with Veronica and Paulo. Across from us, Harrison Webb, two associates, and surprisingly Apex's CEO, Theodore Vaughn, a silver-haired man in his 60s, who'd been notably absent from the entire controversy. Dr. Brenner, Theodore began, I want to start by saying I was unaware of the circumstances of your termination until this lawsuit was filed. Had I known... You're the CEO, I interrupted quietly. The termination required executive approval. You signed off on it. Theodore shifted uncomfortably. I signed off on what was presented as a standard restructuring, Kyle assured me. Kyle is 31 years old and was promoted beyond his competence, I continued. You enabled him. You created a culture where someone like him could plot to steal my work and face no consequences. The room was silent. Theodore cleared his throat. You're right, and I'm here to make this right. What do you want? Veronica slid forward our demand letter. These terms, full ownership assignment, $5 million public acknowledgement. Harrison spoke up. That's financially devastating for Apex. Not as devastating as a trial, Veronica countered. Discovery alone will expose every internal email, every decision, every instance of age and gender discrimination in your company. The publicity will be catastrophic. Your stock will continue falling. Clients will leave. Scientists will refuse to work there. She leaned forward. But more importantly, you'll lose. The evidence is overwhelming. And when you lose, a jury won't give Dr. Brenner $5 million. They'll give her $20 million, maybe $30 million in punitive damages, because they'll be furious. Theodore looked at Harrison, who reluctantly nodded. She's not wrong. So these are truly your final terms? Theodore asked me. I considered. I could push for more. I had the leverage, but what I really wanted was vindication and security. One modification, I said. Kyle Brennan's termination must be part of the settlement. I won't allow the person who orchestrated this to remain at Apex. Theodore blinked. You want me to fire him? I want you to hold him accountable. He planned this. He executed it. He took credit for my work. If Apex is serious about making this right, he can't stay. Harrison started to object, but Theodore held up a hand. Done. Kyle is terminated as part of this agreement. Then we have a deal, I said. The settlement was drafted over the weekend. Veronica reviewed every word with meticulous care. The key terms. 1. Apex acknowledges Dr. Claudia Brenner as sole inventor of the adaptive protein folding prediction system. 2. All intellectual property rights are assigned to Dr. Brenner, with no reversions. 3. Apex pays $5 million within 30 days. 4. Public statement acknowledging Dr. Brenner's contributions and apologizing for lapses in proper recognition and treatment. 5. Kyle Brennan's employment terminated immediately. 6. Mutual non-disparagement, though I could factually discuss the case. 7. Apex receives a non-exclusive license to use the algorithm for existing projects for 12 months at $50,000 per month. But there was one clause I insisted on that surprised everyone. 8. Apex will establish the Dr. Claudia Brenner Fellowship for Women in Computational Biology, $100,000 annual award for female scientists over 50 pursuing breakthrough research. You're asking them to create an award in your name? Harrison was stunned. I'm requiring them to invest in women they'd normally overlook, I corrected. Every year, they'll have to publicly celebrate a woman like me. It's a permanent reminder that experience and age have value. Theodore actually smiled at this. That's actually quite brilliant, agreed. The settlement was signed on Monday, March 25th, exactly 2 weeks after I'd been fired. As I signed my name, I felt a weight lift. It wasn't just about the money or the vindication. It was about reclaiming my story. That afternoon, Apex released the public statement. Apex Innovations acknowledges that Dr. Claudia Brenner is the sole inventor of the groundbreaking adaptive protein folding prediction system. We recognize that Dr. Brenner's extraordinary contributions to computational biology were not properly valued during her tenure with our company. We apologize for this failure and are committed to ensuring all employees receive appropriate recognition for their work. As part of this commitment, we are establishing the Dr. Claudia Brenner Fellowship to support women in STEM. The statement went viral. Within hours, the hashtag #DocBrenner was trending. Messages of congratulations poured in. Universities reached out asking me to speak. Former colleagues emailed their support, but the message that meant the most came from Zara, the assistant who'd provided the crucial emails. You did it. You actually beat them. Thank you for showing us all that fighting back is possible. Kyle Brennan's termination was not quiet. On Tuesday morning, he arrived at Apex to find his access card deactivated. Security escorted him to HR, where Pamela Voss, clearly uncomfortable, delivered the news. Kyle, effective immediately, your employment with Apex is terminated as part of the settlement agreement with Dr. Brenner. What? Kyle's face went red. You can't do this. I'm the VP of Research. This company needs me. The settlement was contingent on your departure, Pamela said, sliding termination papers across the desk. You'll receive 2 weeks severance per company policy. 2 weeks? I've been here for 2 years. I built this department. You took credit for work you didn't do. Pamela said quietly, you orchestrated the termination of our most valuable scientist. The board reviewed everything, Kyle. Every email, every presentation, where you claimed her algorithm as your own. She looked him in the eye. You're lucky this is just termination. Dr. Brenner could have pursued fraud charges. Kyle's hands shook as he signed the papers. This is her doing, that bitter old. Stop, Pamela interrupted sharply. Don't make this worse for yourself. By noon, word had spread throughout Apex. By afternoon, it was on social media. A former intern posted on Twitter, just heard Kyle Brennan got fired from Apex for stealing Dr. Brenner's algorithm. Turns out karma works sometimes. The post got 15,000 likes. Kyle's LinkedIn was flooded with comments, some supportive, but most not. Guess plagiarism catches up with you eventually. This is what happens when you value presentation over substance. 53 isn't old, 31 isn't experienced, he learned the hard way. Kyle made his LinkedIn private by end of day, but the damage was done. When he applied to other biotech firms in the following weeks, HR departments had already heard the story. His reputation in the industry was destroyed. Meanwhile, Tomas Ruiz received a different kind of call. It was me. Tommy, I know you helped them at first, but you also helped me in the end. That matters. I should have done it sooner, Tomas said quietly. Maybe, but you did it when it counted. I paused. I'm going to need a team when I start licensing the algorithm. Strong scientists I can trust. Are you interested? Tomas was silent for a long moment. You'd work with me after everything? You made a mistake and you corrected it. That's more than most people do. Plus, you're a brilliant computational biologist. I laughed. I could use someone brilliant. When do I start? With clear IP ownership established, I moved forward with the Helix Pharmaceuticals licensing deal. Dr. Nakamura flew to San Diego personally to finalize terms. We met at Helix's regional office, a stunning facility overlooking the Pacific. Dr. Brenner, congratulations on your settlement. The industry is buzzing. Thank you, I said. I'm ready to focus on the science now. The final licensing agreement was even better than the preliminary offer. $18 million upfront payment, increased from $15 million due to proven IP ownership. $10 million annual minimum guarantee plus 2.5% of product revenues. 7-year exclusive pharmaceutical license. Chief computational advisor role, $300,000 per year, remote, part-time. Additional $2 million research budget to further develop the algorithm. This is extraordinary, I said, reading through the terms. Your algorithm could revolutionize drug development, Dr. Nakamura replied. The Alzheimer's treatment alone could generate billions in revenue, if successful. You deserve to benefit from that. I signed the agreement on April 15th, exactly 1 month after being fired. In 30 days, I'd gone from unemployed and humiliated to a multimillionaire with one of the most prestigious consulting positions in biotech. That evening, Paulo and I sat on our back patio, watching the sunset. How do you feel? Paulo asked. Vindicated, exhausted, grateful. I looked at him, and honestly, angry that it had to come to this, that I had to fight so hard just to get what I deserved all along. But you did fight, and you won. I shouldn't have had to, I said quietly. That's what bothers me. How many brilliant women are forced out and don't fight back? How many give up because the system is designed to wear them down? I was quiet for a moment. That's why the fellowship matters, and why I'm not done yet. What do you mean? I've been thinking. I have resources now, credibility, a platform. Maybe it's time to build something that actually values people the way they should have valued me. Like what? Like an independent research institute, not beholden to corporate profits or ageist executives, a place where the science and the scientists matter. Paulo raised his glass. To new beginnings. To finishing what I started, I corrected. Over the next month, I developed a business plan for the Brenner Institute for Computational Biology. The vision: a nonprofit research center focused on AI applications in medicine, prioritizing collaboration over competition, innovation over profit, and experience over youth. I reached out to colleagues, many of whom had faced similar struggles. Dr. Yuki Nakamura from Helix offered to sit on the advisory board. Dr. Ian Carver from Oxford committed to a research partnership. Tomas came aboard as director of research. Zara, now working at a startup, agreed to handle operations. "You're really doing this," Paulo said, watching me sketch organizational charts at 11 p.m. "I have to. What happened to me wasn't unique, it's systemic. The industry discards experienced scientists the moment they become expensive or outdated. But those scientists still have decades of brilliant work in them." I showed him the funding model. The Helix licensing fees provided $10 million annually in operating budget. The settlement money, $5 million, seeded the endowment, and additional grants and partnerships would support specific projects. We'll focus on diseases like Alzheimer's, conditions that need long-term patient research, not quick profits. "How many people will you employ?" "Initially, maybe 15 to 20 researchers. But here's the key," I pointed to a specific section of the plan. "At least 50% must be over 45 years old. We're specifically recruiting experienced scientists who've been pushed out elsewhere." By late May, I had a location. A former pharmaceutical research building that Helix was donating as part of their partnership. It needed renovation, but the bones were perfect. Modern labs, collaborative spaces, even a small auditorium for symposiums. The grand opening was scheduled for October. But in early June I received an unexpected call. "Dr. Brenner? This is Alicia Ramos from the Department of Labor. I'm investigating a complaint filed against Apex Innovations. Your name came up in the investigation. Would you be willing to provide testimony?" "What kind of complaint?" I asked. "Age discrimination. A class action filed by 7 former employees who were all terminated between ages 50 and 65. They claim a pattern of discrimination. Your case is central to their allegations." The class action lawsuit named Apex Innovations for systematic age discrimination. 7 plaintiffs, all experienced scientists terminated between 2020 and 2024, all over 50. All replaced by younger employees with less experience. My case wasn't part of the class action, I'd already settled. But my story was referenced throughout as evidence of the pattern. Alicia Ramos met with me at a coffee shop, away from official offices. "Dr. Brenner, I need to be clear. You're not obligated to help with this investigation. Your settlement likely has non-disparagement clauses." "It has mutual non-disparagement," I corrected. "But I can factually discuss my experience, especially in legal proceedings. Are you willing to testify?" I thought of all the other scientists who'd been erased. "Absolutely." Over the next weeks, I provided detailed testimony. The pattern of denying raises while promoting younger workers, the calculated timing of my termination, the emails showing premeditation, the industry practice of viewing experienced scientists as expensive liabilities. The investigation expanded. The Department of Labor subpoenaed Apex's HR records, revealing damning statistics. In 2020 through 2024, Apex terminated 43 employees over age 50. Of those, 89% were replaced by employees under 35. Average tenure of terminated employees, 8.3 years. Average severance, 4.2 months salary. Not a single employee over 50 was promoted to senior leadership during that period. The findings were released publicly in July. The press had a field day. Apex Innovations faces federal age discrimination probe. Class action alleges systematic targeting of senior scientists. Dr. Brenner case reveals wider pattern of age bias in biotech. Apex's stock, which had partially recovered after the settlement, plummeted again, down 35% from its pre-scandal peak. Theodore Vaughan released a statement claiming the statistics were misleading without context, and that all decisions were based on performance and business needs. But nobody believed him. 3 board members resigned, major clients quietly moved their business elsewhere, and I received dozens of messages from other scientists. Thank you for speaking out. Your courage inspired me to file my own complaint. I thought I was alone, now I know I'm not. The class action grew to 14 plaintiffs, then 22, then 31. Apex was being buried under the weight of its own discriminatory practices. The Apex scandal triggered a broader industry examination. Other biotech companies, nervous about their own practices, began internal audits. Some proactively adjusted policies, others quietly settled with employees who were considering complaints. In August, I was invited to testify before a congressional subcommittee examining age discrimination in STEM fields. I sat at a table facing senators, cameras recording every word. Dr. Brenner, can you describe how age discrimination manifests in the biotech industry? Senator Patricia Donovan asked. It's insidious, I began. It's rarely explicit. Nobody says you're too old. Instead, you're not a culture fit. You're resistant to change. Your salary is not aligned with market conditions, even though the market values your expertise highly. I continued. Companies claim they want innovation, but they equate innovation with youth. They overlook the fact that experience brings pattern recognition, problem-solving ability, and institutional knowledge that you can't get from a 25-year-old fresh out of grad school, no matter how brilliant. What would you recommend as solutions? Mandatory age diversity reporting, just like we require gender and racial diversity reporting. Independent audits of termination patterns, stronger enforcement of age discrimination laws, and cultural change. We need to stop treating 50 as obsolete in an industry where scientists regularly do their best work in their 50s, 60s, and beyond. The testimony went viral. Clips were shared across social media. The hashtag ageism in STEM trended. Universities added age discrimination modules to their ethics curricula. And I became, almost accidentally, a figurehead for a movement I'd never intended to lead. In September, I received an unexpected honor. The National Science Foundation announced the creation of the Senior Scientist Excellence Award for researchers over 50 who'd made significant contributions despite industry discrimination. Dr. Brenner, you're our inaugural recipient, the NSF director told me. Your algorithm, your fight, and your advocacy have changed the conversation about age and value in science. The award came with a $500,000 grant for my institute. At the ceremony, I looked out at the audience. Scientists of all ages, but notably, many silver-haired researchers who'd faced similar struggles. This isn't just my award, I said in my acceptance speech. It belongs to every scientist who was told they were past their prime, every brilliant mind discarded for being too expensive, every innovator erased because they didn't fit some arbitrary definition of youth and potential. We are not obsolete, we are not less valuable, and we will not be silent anymore. October 1st, 2024, the Brenner Institute for Computational Biology held its grand opening. The renovated building was stunning. Modern labs, collaborative workspaces, a library dedicated to my mother, and a wall displaying the names of all 31 plaintiffs from the Apex class action under the heading Scientists Who Refused to Be Erased. The opening ceremony drew over 200 attendees, researchers, journalists, industry leaders, and notably, representatives from companies trying to rebuild their reputations after the age discrimination scandals. Dr. Nakamura gave the keynote. The Brenner Institute represents what our industry should be. A place where experience is valued, where scientists are respected regardless of age, where innovation comes from wisdom as much as from fresh perspectives. I spoke last, standing before the crowd with Paulo, Tomas, Zara, and my new team beside me. 6 months ago, I was fired on my 53rd birthday and told I was being replaced by a younger team with fresh perspectives. Today I'm opening a research institute with $15 million in annual funding, partnerships with the world's leading pharmaceutical companies, and a team of brilliant scientists, 50% of whom are over 45. I smiled. Turns out I wasn't obsolete, I was just undervalued. And there's a difference. The Institute's first research project, using my algorithm to accelerate Alzheimer's treatment development, the disease that took my mother and inspired everything. Mom always said that documentation was protection, I continued. She taught me to keep records, to prove my worth, to never assume people would recognize my value without evidence. She was right, but she also taught me something else. Science isn't about personal glory. It's about pushing human knowledge forward, about solving problems that matter, about leaving the world better than you found it. That's what we're going to do here. Not for profit, not for recognition, but because it matters. The applause was thunderous. As the crowd mingled afterward, I received a message on my phone. It was from an unknown number. Dr. Brenner, you don't know me. I'm a 49-year-old chemist who just got fired for restructuring. I saw your story. I saved all my documentation. Can you recommend an attorney? I smiled and typed back, yes. And when you're ready, we're hiring. December 24, I sat in my office at the Brenner Institute, reviewing promising early results from the Alzheimer's research. The algorithm was performing even better than projected. 96% accuracy in protein folding prediction, with applications emerging in other neurodegenerative diseases. My phone buzzed. It was Veronica. Claudia, you need to see this. Apex Innovations just declared bankruptcy. I pulled up the news. After the class action settlement, $47 million, the federal fines for age discrimination, $12 million, the loss of major contracts and the talent exodus, Apex couldn't survive. The company was being liquidated. How do you feel? Veronica asked. Honestly, sad, I admitted. Not for the executives who created the culture, but for the good scientists who worked there and are now looking for jobs. Actually, Veronica said, I've been getting calls. At least a dozen Apex researchers want to know if the Brenner Institute is hiring. I smiled. Tell them to send their resumes, preferably the ones over 45. That evening, I attended the first Claudia Brenner Fellowship Award ceremony at Apex, technically, at what used to be Apex, now administered by the bankruptcy trustee. The fellowship remained funded as part of the settlement agreement. The recipient was Dr. Angela Wu, a 57-year-old molecular biologist who'd spent 20 years developing a groundbreaking cancer treatment before being forced into early retirement. Dr. Wu, I said as I presented the award, your work is extraordinary. This fellowship is a small recognition of what you've contributed and what you'll continue to contribute. Angela teared up. Thank you for the award, but more for fighting back. You showed all of us that our careers don't have to end at 50 just because someone decides we're not valuable anymore. Later back home, Paulo and I sat in comfortable silence. Do you have any regrets? Paulo asked. About what? Fighting so hard. The lawsuit, the publicity, everything. It cost you a lot emotionally. I considered this. No, because if I'd stayed silent, Kyle would still be there, stealing other people's work. Apex would still be quietly forcing out experienced scientists, and I'd have spent the rest of my career wondering what if. I looked at the framed patent on my wall, Adaptive Protein Folding Prediction System, Dr. Claudia Brenner, inventor. They tried to erase me. Instead, I erased them. Not through revenge, but through value. I proved that what they discarded was worth more than everything they kept. My laptop chimed with an email. It was from the FDA. Preliminary approval for Phase 2 clinical trials using my algorithm for Alzheimer's treatment development. If successful, the treatment could help millions of people. People like my mother. They fired me at 53, I said quietly. Told me I was obsolete, but at 53, I'm just getting started. I opened my development journal, a new one, started the day I was fired, and made an entry. December 15, 2024. FDA approval received. Mom would have been proud. The algorithm she inspired might save millions of lives. They thought firing me would end my career. Instead, it freed me to build something that actually matters. Note to self, document everything. And never ever let anyone tell you what you're worth. You define your own value. I closed the journal and smiled. The best revenge isn't destruction, it's transformation. They wanted to erase my story. Instead, I rewrote the ending.